All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the CV Update. Once again, we had a week filled with games and important sports news since our last episode, including 9 Red Sox games, 4 Bruins games, 4 Celtics games, some more Patriots discussion as the NFL draft is just 5 days away, and we'll also discuss the Super League and the disaster it was. Additionally, just one note with regards to the NFL draft, as this is the last weekend before the NFL draft begins next Thursday, April 29th, we will be back tomorrow with some special guests dedicating an entire episode to the draft. So today's episode will be more focused on the Red Sox, Bruins, and Celtics. We'll talk a little bit about the Patriots and we'll discuss the Super League as well. And of course, joining me as always is my co-host, Rohan Venkatesh. Rohan, how are you doing tonight?
What do I have to say this week? What is it? 9 games in 7 days for the Red Sox, 7-inning double headers, runners on second base and extra innings. So a lot of things have changed over there. In addition to that, I've never seen an entire league about to be born in 1 week, only to be extinguished a few days later.
The Heineken commercial, by the way.
So these are some funky times.
Wait, Rohan, did you see that Heineken commercial? Don't drink and start a league. Did you see that Heineken commercial? That was
I have not seen that Heineken commercial. I have seen the other Heineken commercials for don't drink and do whatever it is. But then again, I do not want to do free advertising for Heineken, as there are many other beers in the world.
That is true.
I have my preferences, and I will not mention them on air unless they pay me.
Yep, fair enough. But anyways, let's talk about the Red Sox first, as busy week for them, as we mentioned. 9 games and kind of a mixed stretch. I mean, they went 4-5. Obviously, they're currently in the midst of a 4-game series against the Seattle Mariners. Started on Thursday. They lost today 8-2. Very bad game. Nathan Eovaldi got kind of crushed. It was Mariners were up 4-0 after 2 innings. And Rohan, I'd just like to say this: like, we praise the Red Sox offense, and the Red Sox offense is very good. But the other, like,
pitching's everything.
Yeah, that's the thing.
If you're not pitching, down, like, the whole team falls apart.
Exactly. Like, if you're down
I pointed last week that the bullpen was struggling. You say, no, it's not the bullpen, it's the starters. And I have to say, I have to credit you were right about that, because 2 innings they were down 4-0 or something. I mean, Eovaldi, who's supposed to be one of our better starters. I mean, of course,
I think it's more of an off start for him. He's been pretty good.
And it kind of looks like, Erod is like the de facto head of the staff where Chris Sale comes in. But I mean, Eovaldi, I mean, he's been pretty good. Yeah, like you said, today, I want to think that today was an off day. I don't want to think that today was representative.
I think it was. I mean, he's been pretty good, but, like, I don't know. It just brings me to it. Like, if, like, the offense is always facing like a 4-0 5, and not always, like, the pitching rotation.
It's just demoralizing. It's so demoralizing. How many times can you expect them to keep playing catch up and keep coming back every single time?
Like, even like if we go back to we're going to discuss this a lot because this has been kind of a big issue, but the game on the 21st of April against Toronto, it was they lost 6-3, and the reason it's notable is because Garrett Richards played that day. He pitched that day for the Red Sox, and he, in 4 2/3 innings, he allowed 4 hits and 4 earned runs. And I don't know, Garrett Richards, he really has not acclimated well here. And I don't know, like, I don't just like, I mean, give me 1 second, Rohan. Let's just talk about this, because this is kind of like a big thing, and we were discussing a little bit before, but I want to really capture this to our audience. Garrett Richards basically, for his, like, after the last game, he's basically said, I mean, I didn't even pack a jacket for a season until this year. So I'm going on my 9th, almost 10th year. So yeah, you know, it's something different, but it's nothing that can be dealt. Nothing that can't be dealt with. I think that's the typo on that.
By itself, that statement sounds bad, but there's some context to it. That was in response to a question that a reporter asked him, asking something along the lines of, like, why has he been struggling? I mean, like, he was a phenomenal pitcher several years ago, and even as recently as last week or a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. And like, it wasn't just one bad start. It was a
He's had like one good start so far, right? He's had one good start, and
he had like an okay start, and then just another disaster. And so, like, and so given that, I really don't know if Garrett Richards is worth being given the benefit of the doubt for much longer.
I mean, unfortunately, you have him for the whole year.
You were criticizing him a while ago, and I was saying no, give him a chance, but I'm not there yet, but I'm starting to believe that you might have been right about that. And
well, here's the thing. Like, unfortunately, I don't want to be right. Like, I want Garrett Richards. Like, he was good with the Angels. We know that. But that was also 7 years ago. 2014, he had that terrific season, but that was 7 years ago. And 2015 was his like last really good season. I don't want to count 2020 because that was a abbreviated season. But really, like 2014, 2015, that's like those are 2 years you could say he was like an ace of the Angels staff. But what I kind of want to go with for Garrett Richards is, we're basically like the Red Sox signed him to a 1-year, $10 million contract. Like, you can't just designate him for assignment just 4 games in. And you shouldn't do that. Like, you still want to like let him work through it. Maybe.
Well, it depends. Doesn't matter how much you're paying him. If having him on the roster and having him pitch is a liability for your team.
I mean, that's what has happened at this point. Come on, like the rest of the rotation's actually been pretty good. Martin Perez, he's been sort of seen as the weak link. He actually did really well yesterday.
That $10 million is a sunk cost. That's a sunk cost. So as far as it goes right now, it doesn't matter. They already owe him $10 million. That's not going to change whether they put him in the game or whether they don't put him in the game. What really is going to matter is whether they call him back next year and basically.
Well, he has a club option. So here's the thing.
I can almost certainly say no.
Well, let's see. I mean, it is early, and I mean, you hope, right? Like in April, maybe he'll turn into a pretty serviceable guy down the road, and maybe he'll improve. I mean, look, it's early right now, but I don't know. Let's also just talk about some of these other guys. Nick Pavetta.
I mean, like, I actually think that they should just move the bullpen.
I mean, I think it's early for that. Like, as much as I want to rip him right now, and there's
plenty. No. You can keep him in the game. Keep him in the game. I mean, he's still got a chance to play and show.
But who do you have instead now? Who do you put in his place then? If you put him in the bullpen, who do you put?
That's a good question. I don't have
exactly. So like at this point, I'm like, do you trust Darvinson Hernandez or someone like that as a starter now? You saw
or you could go with the Rays approach and have one of those bullpen.
No. You want the Tampa Bay Rays.
The Blue Jays did it successfully against us like last week.
I mean, if it happens for a game, but
they pieced together like 3 or 4 relievers over a span of 9 innings. Like it's not.
No, that is not a way to actually successfully win.
It's non-traditional, but it's not like it can't work.
I have my doubts.
So many things are non-traditional. Defensive shifting, that's not traditional.
You know, like I just want to bring this up because like this has been brought up at this new age of analytics. Zach Britton, you know who he is? Yankees reliever.
Yeah, he used to play for the Orioles. I do remember.
Yeah. So he played. So this is in 2019, I think this is what he said at some point during the series, because against when it was the Yankees and Astros in the ALCS that year, 2019, which the Astros of course won in 6 games. What Britton said, which kind of caught my eye, was he was kind of critical of this whole approach of like every day like the relievers get that much action, because in his words he said, you know, we are relievers at the end of the day. Like I'm going to kind of paraphrase what he's saying, so don't. And I may misquote him a little bit. Apologies to Zach Britton if I sort of misquoted what you said. But the gist of what I got from what Zach Britton said that day was, you know, at the end of the day, there's a reason we are relievers. Like if we keep seeing the same guys over and over again, the way starters do, then they're going to figure us out. That's why we're relievers, because you only see us for an inning or so. That's why our strength. So that's why I kind of go with and I'm tying this back in, if you can now understand, to the whole like opener approach, like the bullpen, like starter reliever. If that keeps happening, eventually the hitters are going to figure these guys out, because these relievers, there's a reason they're relievers.
Well, yeah, it's just going to shrink the gap, right? Because right now with starters, they see the same guys over and over again.
But they're good because they're able to adapt themselves.
They only see people once or twice or something like that. So the relievers have that advantage of mystery, as you mentioned previously.
Yeah, and that's like, and they need that. But if
you have these bullpen games, what's going to end up happening is that the starters are gonna start to see new hitters less and less, and relievers are going to start to see hitters more and more, and it's gonna be the natural progression of the gap shrinking between starters and relievers, where the status of starter or reliever isn't really going to matter anymore. It's just going to matter, can you put in 2 or 3 innings and get us through this. I feel like that's the way that the game is evolving, and I think like give it 5 or 10 years, and I think that's pretty much where it's going to be at.
Possibly. I mean, look at how much the game has already changed.
Because I feel like in 10 years the concept of the starting pitcher is going to be obsolete. And
well, that's bad. That is bad if that's what's happening. And all the stats
that say that you got to go 5+ innings as a starter in order to get a victory. That's going to be
no. You that can't be the case. If that's the case, then baseball is really
well. No, because teams are just going to do what's going to make them more likely to win. And look,
I don't know. Does that actually increase your chances of winning? Like having this whole like opener approach where you have multiple relievers over the course of the game. Does that actually increase your chances of winning? Like the Dodgers, the Nationals, the Red Sox, the Astros, the last 4 World Series champions, they all had a legitimate rotation that helped that team win. They didn't go with that whole like opener stuff. Like you have a reliever. Like I know Tampa Bay got to the World Series. It was a 60-game season. So it's kind of hard for us to really look at it.
It's plausible because right now the standard pitching rotation, the traditional pitching rotation is 5 pitchers, 5 starters. But if you have, say, like 7 or 8 starters who are of starting pitcher caliber, then you can have like you can have like 3 core starters and have like the other 5.
You're talking about the All-Star game almost. Like you have like these guys like come in, these starters pitch like multiple innings and stuff like that. That sounds like what the All-Star game usually happens.
Yeah, it's unusual. Yeah, it's unusual. It's unusual, but it's not unfathomable. It definitely can happen. And all it takes is for more research to be done to see whether or not having bullpen games is better or not for your win-loss record, whether it's better or not compared to if you take each pitcher's wins above replacement statistic.
Or yeah, that's that. Okay.
If you take all that, look, I get it, right? I get that a lot of the traditionalists love to hate the analysts right there. Oh, analytics! Oh, I hate these guys. But I mean,
okay, I want
no, and I do concede that the analytics are often wrong. I don't dispute.
It's not about being often wrong,
but not using analytics means that you're going to be wrong a lot more often.
No. But here's the thing with analytics: you're
going to be right a lot more often than you're going to be wrong.
You have to understand.
Then yes, if you're going to go with an approach that is going to give you n number of more wins per year, yes, that's
all right. Right, Rohan. Wait, here's the thing though about analytics, and I want to just bring this up. It's not that people are really against this whole analytics approach. They're just really upset about how analytics has kind of changed. Because look, let's be realistic. The analytics approach for the last 2 World Series, it impacted it badly.
And yes, the analytics were wrong last year.
But that's a costly. Those are costly mistakes. Those actually impact. You know the number of jobs that are impacted by losing a World Series versus winning a World Series. The impacts are very like. It's not just that, right? Like you had that.
You're not wrong about that point, but you can easily point to several instances where analytics were not used and a bad result happened for one team or the other, and that can be pointed to on the other hand and as evidence that
So I think the better approach is you use analytics as like a complementary thing. I think you should.
It's a tool. It's a tool. It's not everything. But it's a tool. It's a tool.
I don't agree with the binder approach where like you give a manager of all. I think it's okay to give a manager the statistics and data, and then you let the manager kind of manage the flow of the game and use it to help them. If that's what's being used, then I actually am in favor of that. What I don't want is I just don't want a manager to just blindly look at the thing and say, okay, I want to use this reliever here because the stats say all this stuff. Like you should also look at like kind of the game situation.
But even bullpen situations, right? If this certain hitter is coming up and you got a guy in the bullpen who has better numbers against that particular hitter.
They usually do that. Like that's what they already
currently pitching. No. Like then it makes sense to put that pitcher into the game. Now, look, if you bring that other pitcher into the game and that pitcher gives up a hit or a home run or some bad event occurs for your team, then all of a sudden the anti-analytics guys are going to be like shouting, "Oh, see, yeah, analytics are crap. Well, we can't do that." But at the same time, I bet that those people are going to be silent if you don't bring that guy into the game and the same result or a worse result ends up happening. And so I can't help but think that people who dunk on analytics are just they probably don't know what they're talking about.
Possibly. I mean, I don't think so. I think they're just more like they don't want the game to be impacted too much by analytics. Like
no, I just think that it's an anti-nerdification kind of sentiment. It's an anti-intellectual sentiment. And so like given all of that, because we get it, right? Sports, it's physical, right?
I mean, that also impacts who you're signing in free agency, right? Like you go by the spin rate or like all that stuff like that. You like have to analyze. Like Garrett Richards, one of the primary reasons they went for Garrett Richards, the Red Sox, is because of his spin rate on his on his fastball, I think, or his curveball. So there's like all this like stuff like analytics that.
But okay.
That.
Okay, so
you're paying this guy $10 million.
All right, so fine. All right, so fine. He has a higher spin rate. Yeah, that's what the analytics tell us. Does that necessarily mean that he's going to be a better pitcher? No, we're seeing that right now firsthand. But that doesn't mean that the analytics themselves are bad. That the analytics.
No, I don't. Nobody's saying it's bad. People are just saying
what it means.
If you're relying on it too heavily.
What it means is, from a correlation standpoint, a higher spin rate doesn't necessarily correlate to better results on the field. And that's an argument in favor of making the analytics models better, not that analytics are bad.
That's not as, I mean, that's easy said, like, oh, make it better, but it's not as easily done.
Well, I mean, there's an entire profession around that. It's called data science.
Pretty much. And it's not easy to just build a new model from scratch.
And look, and this is the entire premise behind Moneyball. So so it has been done before. You can put together a scrappy group of guys with low salaries. I mean, the A's did it way back in the early 2000s. The Rays almost pulled it off in 2008 with a really low payroll.
And the A's didn't actually win the World Series. That's important to note. And by the way, Oakland, they're on a 12-game winning streak right now. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, that's kind of insane right now. Yeah, like the A's. So yeah, that's the thing. Like not just have the Red Sox cooled down, but with other teams keeping up with them. Of course, you get that big series going on between the Dodgers and
Padres. Oh yeah, that's the fun.
And that I feel like that's an emerging rivalry right there. It's a battle for
Fernando Tatis. He hit 2 home runs the other day too. So he's the real deal for them.
So that's going to be super interesting. But now I mean, Milwaukee's also doing well, and Milwaukee now has a better record than the Red Sox. So do the A's, and so. It's
still early. I mean, the Red Sox are 13-9, which is fine for this point of the season. They're still
maybe I just kind of got to an emotional high last week. Like, oh my God, I thought the Red Sox sucked, but they're actually doing really well. Okay, now they've fallen back to earth. I said last week that there's going to be a reversion to the mean. I don't know what that mean is. We have the entire season to resolve what that is.
I mean, 13-9, you take that though after what happened last season.
Yeah.
Also, I did want to mention this.
Not bad at all. I mean, it's still
one more
the division.
So one more Red Sox point. I just want to mention, I want to give him a shout out because he's been excellent. Nick Pavetta. This man has been excellent.
Oh yeah.
And the Red Sox got him from the Phillies, and this is actually like Chaim Bloom, the Red Sox manager. General manager, not manager. Manager's of course Alex Cora, but the general manager. This is one of his great finds, Nick Pavetta, and I think he's done a terrific job trying to identify these types of players. And I think that's like the analytics background. This is something where the analytics worked out because Pavetta has been terrific for the Red Sox. So what's Garrett Whitlock? Garrett Whitlock is awesome. They got him from the Yankees of all teams. And now Garrett Whitlock looks like an absolute steal for the team. Yesterday he came in. He didn't allow a couple hits, but still hasn't allowed an earned run this season. So I think the Red Sox, obviously, look, I mean, it's been kind of frustrating. Like they lost 8-2 today, but they are back at it tomorrow. And hopefully it's the start of another winning streak. I mean, so far since Baltimore, that opening series, they haven't lost a series since then. They have tied a couple series, but they're at least, I also say 13-9, I'll take that at this point of the season, especially considering expectations were so low for this team. So that's our Red Sox coverage, obviously, and baseball coverage. Obviously, the Red Sox are, I still say they're in the right direction.
Pavetta, another one of those gems from north of the border.
Yep, pretty much. Nick Pavetta. Awesome. But I mean, with Rohan, let's talk about the Bruins now. So we had 4 games.
Yeah, they had a 6-game winning streak until last night.
Lost to the Sabres. But you know what? It happens. But it happens, right? Like, I mean, you play the same team 3 games in a row in the same city. And I know Buffalo's really bad.
They're bottom. They're 2 out of 3. It's not bad.
But it happens. Like I'm not actually as bothered by this. Like Buffalo was.
Yeah, actually, yesterday's game really lost. Yesterday's game was pretty entertaining.
6-4. I mean, you're down 5-1, and then
they're down 5, and then they
5-4.
They make it interesting. They get 3 goals, and then like a historic game for Kevin Miller, for Steven Camper. Kevin Miller like getting his first game in close to 3 years. I want to say. Don't quote me. I might get that wrong. But Steven Camper,
he was good. Yeah, they were good yesterday. I mean, it happens. Like it was Swayman who started yesterday. Was it Rask?
No. It was Rask who started, and then after he let in the 4th goal, they brought in Halak, and then Halak let in another one.
Oh, Rask. That means you're going to hear the Swayman crowd even more going forward. But I mean, overall, it's been good. I mean,
and then like the third, like the fourth was
Washington
really
too, right?
that was really a soft one because it was just a direct shot and it wasn't really much of a screen and it really that really should have been. Those are the kind of saves that used to be routine for Rask and you were saying in the past that okay, like I'm skeptical of Rask and I've always loved Rask. There's only so many times that you can let in.
Yeah, look, here's the thing with Tuca, right? I'm going to say this again. At this point, it's going to come down to how far Tuca can take you. Like, Swayman's a nice player, but I don't know. I don't buy the whole, like, hot goalie idea. Like, the hot goalie idea is, like, oftentimes you have, like, what St. Louis had in 2019 with Jordan Binnington. Like, you have, like, you ride, like, the hot goalie's hand to the Stanley Cup title. Like, I think Philadelphia in 2010, when they made it to the Stanley Cup final, I forgot Michael Layden.
Yep.
And I forgot they had someone else. Like they basically rode that to the Stanley Cup final, and they lost. And Philly actually lost to Chicago in 6 games.
Yeah, Michael Layden. He was the backup behind Ray Emery.
Yeah, possible. I forget, but yeah, the year the Philly came back from a 3-0 against Boston. So like, anyways, like the thing is,
that was such a weird year. They ended up winning the Classic and then collapsed in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, that was a frustrating team, but
Flyers,
they did
Flyers
win the next year.
Final, yeah.
But they did win the next year and they swept Philly, so that was a good measure of revenge. This time you did not blow a 3-0 lead. You actually finished the job in game 4. But anyways, that aside, what I just want to mention was oftentimes we talk about like the hot goalie hand. I still think Rask for this season is your best chance at winning because he's the experienced guy. Maybe Swayman, I don't know. Do you trust Swayman to go on some like really historic run for the Bruins? And like I what I've seen from Swayman is I like what I see from him.
He can. He definitely can.
Do you? I don't know. Like I mean, so what's the Bruins?
Would I roll the dice on him if both Rask and Halak are healthy? I don't know about that, but if Rask or Halak have to be out and we have to put our faith in Swayman, I would not be worried. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just a lot of unproven stuff. I know, like, I mean, but like,
but hey, that's a good problem to have. We got 4.
Yeah, and that actually kind of brings me to next year. Like, what's the situation? Because Rask is a free agent, Halak is also a free agent, and you have Swayman and Daniel Vladar. Like, you have your 2 young goalies. Do you bring Rask back? Because let's just being realistic. You're not bringing back both Rask and Halak now. You're just bringing back
give him like a 1-year contract.
I say, I mean, I don't know if I think Tuca, like based on what I've been hearing about him, he might go for like a 3-year contract. Because I think at this point, Tuca, the way his situation is, he's either playing for Boston or he's retiring. There's no trade or any of that stuff. I don't think he's going to play for another team at this point. I think he's
he's kind of at that age where he's probably not going to. He's at an age where he could retire, but if he can extend his career in Boston, he'll do it.
Yeah, I mean. Look, I mean, as much as we like to dump on him, he is still a very good goalie. And right now, the Bruins' best chances at a cup involve a healthy Tuukka Rask playing at the best of his ability. What happened in 2019, basically, until that Game 7 against St. Louis. So, yeah, I think the Bruins they're trending in the right direction since Taylor Hall. They got him from the Sabres. Yesterday was their first loss since they.
Yeah.
He's been good.
I mentioned last week that they needed to add depth to their second, third, and fourth lines, and that's largely been true.
Riley's a good defender too. Like that has been that is a good addition, and so they're trending in the right direction. I just want to see them keep playing this way. You do play Buffalo 2 more times, and at this point the schedule. What I
will say is that compared to other teams, I mean they definitely have an easier schedule, and since they have a couple of games in hand over the Rangers, who are I believe 4 or is it 6 points behind. But given that, the Bruins just have to stay where they are because I at this stage, the way that the playoff format works, given the fact that it's 1v4, 2v3, if they make it to the 3rd slot, they may very well end up playing the Caps or the Islanders.
Well, they can beat the Caps. They beat them 6-3.
They have beaten the Caps, but what I'm saying is that there's not really much of an incentive to really climb in the standings for the Bruins right now. They get to the 3rd slot or even the 2nd slot.
In New York, the Islanders, like I mean, after they beat them 2 days in a row, I'm feeling more confident now. Because now they actually finally the Islanders were like their boogeymen basically.
I got more confidence against Pittsburgh. I mean they got them coming up next week.
Yeah, that's going to be a big one. Tuesday, right? That's their next game. Tuesday against Sidney Crosby.
I think it's Monday or Tuesday. I believe it's Tuesday.
Yeah, Pittsburgh will be a tough one. We'll see what happens though. But anyway, that's our Bruins take.
I mean, they're all tough opponents, but I would definitely take them against Pittsburgh rather than take them against the Islanders. I would do that. But
I don't know about the Islanders now. I mean, I think the Islanders kind of conquered that now.
But the way that the playoff structure works is that there's not really much of an incentive for climbing the standings. Okay, like if you're a 4 seed, you're still in the playoffs. If you're a 3 seed, you're still in the playoffs. 4 seed versus 3 seed, you're still going to be on away ice in the first round. The only thing that's going to differ is, are you going to play the 1 seed or the 2 seed? Now, how does that really matter? Now, if it so happens that you tend to play better against the 2 seed, or if it happens that you play better against the 1 seed than the 2 seed, then maybe you're better off finishing 4th than you are finishing 3rd.
But who would they play? So where are they right now in the standings again?
They're 4th, and
who would they play if the season ended today? Who would they play in the first round?
They would be playing. I believe they'd be playing. They would be playing. Let's see. We did be playing Patriots.
Okay, that's an okay first round matchup. I take my chances.
Again, I don't have the information in front of me.
That's fine. Okay, that's enough. Yeah. Okay, but anyway, that's our Bruins take for this week. Obviously, they're still like, I know yesterday was just a bad game, but I like the way they're trending. So that's our Bruins take. Let's talk about the Celtics now.
It would be the thing. I just
checked the Yep, that's good. That's good. So, anyways, Rohan, let's talk about the Celtics now a little bit. Like, obviously, they had a big, like a weekend ago. They had a huge win against the Golden State Warriors.
They had a mediocre week after being hot. They had a precisely mediocre week.
But that win against the Warriors that was an awesome game to watch. Yeah. Jason Tatum, 44 points. Kemba Walker had 25 points. Jabari Parker, who we had discussed, 11 points in his first game with the Celtics, and Steph Curry was just insane, 47 points, just making threes everywhere. But then, of course, you follow up that with a horrible loss to the Chicago Bulls, 102-96, and Tatum was horrible.
Yeah, that was cringy.
3 of 17, and he did get that triple-double, but I really don't care about that stuff, especially when you lose to the Chicago Bulls, who are a terrible team. But they did have a nice win against the Phoenix Suns, 99-86. Kemba Walker had 32 points. He was the star of that game. Tatum also had a pretty bad shooting game, 3 of 17 again. Like, so basically,
but still, they couldn't get it done against the Nets.
Well,
get it done against the Nets. So that's pretty much the ceiling, right? Like, you can't beat good teams like.
No, the Nets game, at least, I will say this. I was frustrated by that game, but also keep in mind, Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker are both out for that game. And obviously the Nets, I know, are also without KD and James Harden, so that balances it out. But I don't know. Like, I feel at least, I don't know, at least I'd like to see, because I think the thing with the Nets is there really isn't, I mean, again, like, I don't think this is going to be a big issue for the Nets, but one of the potential knocks on the Nets for this team, for the season is, those 3 guys, Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving, those 3 have not played many games together this season. So the chemistry between those 3 is still very much like kind of like being built. And chances are, like, look, they're in this league, talent wins out, right? So they're going to, whoever they play in the first round, they're going to absolutely stomp because they have 3 of the best players in the NBA. But I do wonder, like, going into the second round, like, or something like that, how good this Nets team can, I mean, obviously, look, they should be the favorite, but if KD and Harden are kind of still battling injury right now, if those 2, like, don't ever fully get healthy, then that opens the door for a lot of teams, including the Celtics, to potentially play some upsetting role. Like, I mean, and we've seen this before. KD in 2019, after he went out, the Raptors were able to beat that Warriors team. So
it's still be spoilers at the very least.
Yeah, so I think the Celtics, I'm not going to look at yesterday. Yesterday was a frustrating loss in that sense. Like,
I mean, Marcus Milwaukee, Philadelphia, like they're like atop the Eastern Conference.
I don't put Milwaukee. So, like, look, the
Celtics can be a thorn in their side.
I'll say it like this. I think so if I have to rank tiers right now, I'd say this. Tier 1 in the East, not the West. We're just focusing on the East. In the East, tier 1, I'd say Brooklyn and Philadelphia. Tier 2 is Milwaukee. I don't consider Milwaukee to be tier 1. The reason I don't do that is because the Celtics, who are, I'm going to say, are a tier 3 team, the Celtics are tier 3. The Celtics actually have beaten Milwaukee twice this season, and they're 2-1 against Milwaukee. And the one time Milwaukee beat them,
that's what I said, they could be a thorn on their side.
No, I don't buy Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's a pretender. of a team, like for a real contender. They're not a real contender. Giannis is awesome. The rest of that team, I don't buy. Like I've seen it now for 2 straight playoffs where they kind of fizzled out late. I mean, against Toronto in the 2019 Eastern Conference Finals, and then last year against Miami. I know Miami was good. They beat the Celtics, but they lost to Miami in 5 games and really didn't put up much of a fight in that series. So I'm going to say that about this right now, that Milwaukee really is not like, I don't know. I'll give them tier 2. They are better than the Celtics, but I could see the Celtics beating Milwaukee. I'm having a very, very hard time seeing them beat either Philadelphia or Brooklyn. They are 0-6 against those 2 teams combined. So I don't feel good
at best. I say the Celtics bow out in the second round. That's pretty much their ceiling.
Pretty much. I mean, it depends. If they land Milwaukee, then maybe they can go to the conference finals. I don't see them beating Philadelphia or Brooklyn unless, I mean, I don't know. Let's see what happens. Because
depends on whether Joel Embiid is healthy or not.
Well, yeah. That, I mean, if there is an injury to Brooklyn, if like KD and Harden are not fully recovered, and Kyrie also does have his injury problems. We know that from his time with the Celtics. So if that happens, then so that's why I say like you ought to always like play the games, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. Like the Raptors in 2019, I mean, nobody knew that Kevin Durant would have an injury like this, but the Raptors, good for them. They persevered. They actually went through the schedule and they got a Warriors team that was depleted. And they won a championship. That's the end of the goal at the end of the day, to win the championship. So the Celtics should absolutely still give effort, and we'll see what happens. Like I think if Fournier comes back, yesterday was his first game back. Evan Fournier, like yesterday he looked pretty rusty. First game back from the COVID protocol, but I do think that this team, at least now, is starting to sort of gel well. Like I'm sort of seeing it a little more. Like obviously the results have been kind of mixed, but I don't know. Once Jaylen Brown comes back and in the playoffs, you don't have to worry about Kemba not having Kemba for like a back-to-back, because there are no back-to-backs in the playoffs. So I do feel okay about that, but let's see what happens. Like I'm not saying this is a championship contender. I do agree with you. Likely this is a second round team at best, but let's see what happens. They play the games for the reason. But that's our Celtics take. And now just for the Patriots, we're just going to mention this really quickly, Rohan, because of course we have a whole show tomorrow dedicated to this.
Oh yeah, it's going to be exciting.
I don't know. I just wanted to mention this. Do you saw the Seth Wickersham article, right? Like, he mentioned it on the podcast. Bill Belichick in 2018 was reportedly talking to the New York Giants, the Miami Dolphins, and the Washington football team. And apparently this was because of the whole like Brady Belichick
so it looks
drama.
It looks like not just one of them was looking to bolt. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was I don't know. Like, I mean, I think things have changed. Like now that Brady's gone, I think Belichick is committed to staying here at least as long as Robert Kraft wants him to stay here. So I don't think you have to worry about that much, but I guess it shows you how bad it really was.
Based on what? I thought you would have said that in 2018 as well.
What? Like, said what?
Unless you knew what you knew now. Like Belichick, he's not.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like in 2018, the Giants part is actually not the Dolphins and Washington team. I actually didn't know about that. But the Giants thing, there was like in January of 2018, I do recall reading an article that was talking about how Belichick was potentially, I think it was just like a loose rumor at the time that the Giants were interested in Belichick and something like that. So it wasn't like a real rumor in that context, but I'm not surprised now. I mean, he's always had an affinity for the Giants. Like he worked with them in the 80s, won the 2 Super Bowls back in the day with them. The Dolphins and Washington football team though are a little bit surprising. Like the Dolphins, I don't really know his relationship. Maybe it's because like with Stephen Ross, I don't think he really knows the owner. I don't think he knows him that well. And Dan Snyder, the Washington owner, not a very good person. And I definitely don't know why he'd ever want to work for Dan Snyder over Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft is a very good owner in that context. So yeah, I don't really know. It's an interesting context, but yeah, this is just going to be a quick Patriots Minute for today because we're going to have a whole segment dedicated to them and the draft tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. But Rohan, just the last thing, and this is going to be a Super League fallout, the whole disaster that it was. And John Henry, what was he doing? Like, I mean, I don't know, like he apologized to Liverpool supporters, but this whole idea was just really kind of from the get-go was never embraced by the fans at all. And now you're like in this whole like situation, right?
All right. So there's multiple tiers to this, right? So for the fans, there's one chunk of fans who wants to see all the best teams go up against each other all the time. We kind of already have
the Champions League, right?
The Champions League. However, from year to year, things can change. It really depends on whether you get drawn into a group with another opponent or something like that.
But if you're a good team, shouldn't that not matter? Like, if you want to see the best of the best, like, look, I'm just saying it like this. Manchester United, historically, like, they're good this year, but there was a period of years where they were not a very good team. Like, if you're like a supporter, like if you're a fan of soccer, Manchester United has a historic draw.
They would have finished near the bottom of the Super League in that
exactly.
Case.
No, but like, what's the point of having this Champions League? Like, I'm using Manchester United because I know they're good now, but they're not. They weren't very good for like a 6-7 year stretch up to the season. Right now, they're good, but like, if Manchester United is really bad, then that's not what fans want to see. They'd rather see a team like Leicester City in 2016 actually get through, right, and actually compete, because that's the best team in the league, right?
So this goes to what the fans' ire was, and that was the open door versus closed league structure. So most American leagues have a closed league structure where there's no promotion, no relegation. The Super League, as it was proposed, would have done that, and I can empathize with fans who are pissed about that, and I agree with them on that sentiment because like you said, a team like Leicester never would have been let in, even though they won the Premier League in 2016.
Yep.
So given all of that, it's justifiable that the fans were angry about that. So, but at the same time, you want to see the best of the best go up against each other pretty often. And the Champions League doesn't always do that to the level that it could be doing. And this is because the schedule is so crowded.
So rather than do that,
teams, because here's the thing, top teams have to play the Champions League as well as the domestic. So I was actually thinking, what if you just had the Super League on its own, where it's separated from the domestic leagues, where the teams that make it to the Super League don't have to be in these crowded schedules. They don't have to play their domestic leagues. But at the same time, they got to earn their spot to be in that Super League by finishing near the top of the domestic league.
How do you do this? Like, how many leagues? So just with this proposal, this idea, how many teams from each of the, like, so okay, well, obviously you have EPL, you have La Liga, Bundesliga, the Serie A, the French league, Ligue 1, right? Ligue 1, and then you have to include FC Porto and then Netherlands. How are you going to go?
Okay,
these are all legit teams.
Okay.
How do you do that?
So when it gets to the group stage of the Champions League, you got 32 teams. So they could have some sort of situation where we have those 32 teams placed in a separate league or divided into 16 and 16. I was actually thinking maybe place them.
How do you choose those teams that should be placed there?
Based on the previous league's domestic.
No, but how do you choose? Like, how do you determine? Are we going to choose like the top 2 teams from each of these leagues, top 4 teams? Like, how is it going to work?
The domestic leagues.
Yeah. So are you going to how many teams from each of the leagues?
The same way it goes right now. You would have that same system in place to have those teams in the Super League for the first year. But then the following year, what you could do then is have promotion and relegation from the Super League back into the domestic leagues, where the top domestic teams can make it into the Super League. So if you had a team like Leicester or something like that, who had went on this insane run like in 2016, they could make it into the Super League. And the teams that are at the bottom of the Super League, they get relegated.
That's not as bad of an idea. I think what the issue was like is it was like a very
you can get UEFA involved as well, because I mean some of this outrage was from fans, but I can't help but think that a lot of the outrage was also from UEFA. And so
yeah, I mean, it's basically they're kind of going
when UEFA's a big business. When UEFA's a big business entity, the way that it works, I mean,
it hurt a lot of small teams. I think that's what people
are. They're not going to take kindly to a bunch of big teams trying to subvert them. And as you said, a bunch of small teams were pissed as well. However, I'm not quite sure if a change in the format would really help them very much, because it's not like they really have much of a chance anyways to begin with. Most of the chance that they have, quote unquote chance that they have of getting into the Champions League, really only exists in theory. And that's kind of the irony I see about European sports as opposed to American sports, because European sports is supposedly more of a meritocracy because you have promotion relegation, and anyone, no matter how bottom of the bottom you are, in theory, you could rise to the top. But European leagues don't have the same kind of revenue sharing that American leagues do. So just when you're up against really, really rich teams who have the best players from all over, you really don't have a chance unless there's any kind of revenue sharing model. You can really kiss off any chances of really making it to the top. And so it's really kind of a trade-off, right? Do you have a chance in theory of making it to the top, like in Europe, or do you have a real chance, like you do in America, except you have a smaller pool of teams because most teams only have most leagues only have 30 or 32 teams in the case of the NFL.
Oh, let me just also ask you this then.
But European leagues have several tiers: 20 teams in the top tier, 24 teams in the second tier, and so you can always go down to like the Sunday leagues, the weekend leagues, and amateur.
Wait, so let me just ask you this then, like about like as a noted Liverpool supporter, I know you are. Are you angry at John Henry, or what are your feelings at John Henry for this?
So my feelings with John Henry about this is like I really my stance is that I'm in favor of a Super League, just not the way that it was proposed.
So you're not as mad at John Henry as other Liverpool fans.
So if John Henry were to go ahead with this, I would not have liked it. And so I think it's a good thing that he stepped back and did.
I feel like, I don't know. Do you see his
however,
apology was so weak?
However, I don't think I think he did the right thing, but I think he did it for the wrong reasons, because he did the right thing in saying no to the Super League, but I think he did it for the wrong reasons. I think he just did it because he feared that he would face blowback from fans.
Oh yeah. That's what happened. He basically had to do that apology, right? He had to give that apology. And of course, like, I don't know, like when I listen to him talk, I always just hear someone who doesn't really care about like the team.
Come on, like John Henry, he may be the owner of Liverpool, but let's be honest. I mean, his heart is on this side of the pond. He may own a team on the other side of the pond. And
he's made them good. He's a good owner. Like, as much as we want to criticize him, I mean, Liverpool, right? I mean, they hadn't won anything since like the 90s, right? He comes in, Champions League in 2019, championship, and then you finally win the EPL in 2020. And then for the Red Sox, of course, we have to even go into it. Comes in 2002. Red Sox have won 4 World Series then after having
but of course, yeah, I mean, you got to be sensitive about the fact that we're speaking about this as two Americans here.
No, I know, but John Henry's still a good owner. He's helped Liverpool. He's helped Liverpool.
Like, if you're an English fan on the other side of the pond, you might be like what the
hell?
You
might be upset, but you have to be careful. Like, if you want him gone, that's a big risk, because John Henry, he will help you at least. Like, Liverpool didn't win anything until he came, right? They didn't win it. Literally, they hadn't won anything since like the 90s, way before he came. They were like a laughing stock. People used to say Liverpool fans just talk about the past. You don't have to do that anymore. You have 2019 and 2020.
That was somewhat true. But I mean, it was definitely true in the height of the Man U dynasty.
Exactly. But now you won more recently than Manchester United and Manchester City. Obviously, it's a down season, and they happen. But John Henry still, I say he's a good owner, and he should not have to sell this team because of this. Liverpool fans should understand. And still, like, I understand you're angry about what's happened, but just remember, John Henry, 2020 EPL championship, 2019 Champions League
and also
championship.
If anyone had to be pissed about this, it would be fans of teams that would not have been in the supposed Super League, not Liverpool fans, because if the Super League had gone through, Liverpool would have been in it. And I'm guessing that a lot of the outrage, while some of it might have come from Liverpool fans, probably a lot of it came from
like Sheffield United.
But also, it wasn't just outrage from fans themselves. There was also political blowback as well. And Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the UK President Emmanuel
So
Macron.
players were also critical, like Toni Kroos of Real Madrid still, right? He was critical of it too. So players were not really on board with this either. So it's good that this kind of ended like this. But maybe, yeah, down the road, maybe they come up with some solution. But yeah, no, that's definitely the interesting situation. We just wanted to talk about the Super League a little bit, but that's going to be our episode for this week. Obviously, we will be back tomorrow with some special guests. As I mentioned, tomorrow, Rohan, thanks for coming on. Obviously, we'll see you again tomorrow night.
Hopefully we get a panel tomorrow.
Yeah, we should have a panel, and I'll add the suspense by not mentioning who's coming on, but you might be able to figure out if you watched any of our previous episodes or listen to them on Anchor. But anyways, as always, we're going to be on the CV Update. You can follow us on Instagram at the CV Update Podcast. Have a good night, everyone. We will be back tomorrow, though. So have a good night and take care.
Peace,
See you
everyone.
guys.